Hey, everybody. Welcome to another late night podcast with Bridget and Holly. I'm your host, Bridget.
And I'm your host, Holly.
So, grr, what you been up to today?
Ah, being playing the mom role, the wife role, running errands, cooking dinner, cleaning, a 2 hour grocery trip, a two by myself.
I can see how it takes 2 hours nowadays because now you're sitting there calculating, let's see, $999 for a dozen eggs. How am I going to do that?
I'm gonna be honest with you. It's so funny you said that because N- I mean, not that I had to watch out, I had to watch a little bit because when I go to the grocery store, I'll grab this, and that. A lot of times I don't go with a list. Well, tonight I was like, let me make one because I come back and I'm like, well, damn, I got all this junk and only one meal and spent $300. So tonight I did a list, but I also added up as I went. I've not done that in years, not done it
Right.
in years. And the only reason I did it was because I was like, I only want to spend a certain amount. So if I keep myself on a budget, I won't stray to the
Yep.
non stuff that we really don't need. So I allotted
Yeah.
a little bit for snacks and, just miscellaneous stuff or whatever. And I'm telling you, even though I put myself on a little bit of a budget, it was still a lot. A week's worth of groceries.
Right.
It was $234, but with my savings, it come out to be $184 just for a week of food. And they wonder why
I mean, that's still
Americans,
good, though, for three people.
well, it is, but they wonder why Americans can't get healthy and lose weight and stuff. You make it damn near impossible. I mean, vegetables just to get a bag of apples to get three or four of them, you're gonna pay $10 for 3 apples.
Yep. Junk food's cheaper and healthier food.
It is.
So,
So, what have
that's
you been
what
up
I
to
love to
today?
do.
Oh, I'm
Not
sorry. What?
much, and that's the reason I do Walmart grocery shopping because I stay to a budget better when I shop and have my groceries delivered because I'm not seeing stuff on the aisles that I'm picking up. But
I've
I
done
hadn't
that
been
a
up
few
to much of
times.
nothing.
Not much of
Hmm.
nothing. You been enjoying your day with Mr. Ronnie before you go out on your boat trip tomorrow?
Yeah,
Y'all, I'm
he
jealous.
ended
She's
up putting
going
my
on a
ceiling.
boat tomorrow. Oh,
Yeah, he ended up putting up some ceiling fans so on my porch that I was needing. Okay, so we just want to kind of say hey to each other. But anyhow, today's topic is family ties and we want to add family dynamics to it so we can have more to talk about,
yes.
and we can do that. We can add and take away. But anyhow, that's what we're going to talk about today. And Holly, do you want to start us off?
Oh, I'm gonna let you start this one off because this was a topic,
This
and the only reason I say that is because we both work together when it comes to our topics that we're going to discuss. But this one was Bridget's idea, and don't get me wrong, we both come up with really great, amazing questions. But hers, and y'all have seen on our test our morality show, she'll hit you below the belt. She'll really, really make you think. So I'm gonna let you start off on this one because I'm curious to see what you come
okay.
up with.
Okay. Yeah, because we don't practice this shit. We just go.
No, we don't, y'all,
So
because we
me,
want to
I
be
think
real with
yeah,
y'all.
exactly. So I think family dynamics have definitely changed. And I'm just gonna start out with my life growing up versus how I interact with my kids and grandkids now. So your family ties back years ago, we're gonna start out by saying just point blank, I think family ties were stronger back when I was growing up than they are now. Family meant family, family stuck together. And because of that, like you can have a beef with somebody in your family, but let somebody outside your family have a beef, yeah, we got a fucking problem.
We're gonna roll
We're
with it.
coming for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we roll it down when you fuck with our family. Nowadays, it's like, no,
And you
that ain't
bring
my
your pew
damn problem.
pews. Don't forget your pew
Yep,
pews. You bring your pew pews.
yep, yep. But I think that's different. I think grandparents are different now than they used to be. You know what I'm saying? Back when I was young, I used to stay with my grandmother all the time. But I think, and then now, me being a grandmother, I don't keep my grandkids as much as my grandmother used to keep me. But I think that comes in where back then my grandpa worked, my grandma didn't. So she was a stay at home wife,
Uh-huh.
mother, and she had more time. But now us women are all working full time jobs, and
Right.
we're hustling and bustling. We don't have time to raise them grandkids like our parents did. You know what I'm saying? We
Exactly.
want to visit with them, we want to see them, but I think that's changed. You know what I'm saying? I think that part's
It
changed.
has. I
But
think so
I just
too.
think, yeah, I just think family bonds, period, have really slowed down. Because you remember, like, I know you probably remember when you were a little girl, your family used to get together for family get togethers, family cookouts.
Yeah.
We don't do that much anymore.
Mm-mm. No, we don't. It's definitely changed because I look at the Christmases that we had years ago when I was like 5, 6, and 7, and it was this huge thing we looked forward to and did every single year. Everybody in the
Mm-hmm.
family would come, and now it's
Mm-hmm.
like, you got families who live 2 and 3 hours away, and some families that don't get along well, and you just it's you're it dwindles over time. It's like nobody doesn't sit there and think, "Oh my God, remember how amazing Christmas was when we were 10 and there was like 50 family members here, and now it's like 5." You just
Yeah.
drift apart,
Yeah.
and family doesn't mean as much, it seems like, to people anymore.
I know. And you got to, like, back when I was younger, you would always have like one person. Like I'll never forget my husband's grandmother. She used to have Christmases and stuff, and everybody got together and da 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 da. And then when she passed away, it's like it all stopped. You know what I'm saying? Like you got that one,
Yeah.
what I call your family glue person, the one that holds together everything.
Yep.
Um, but then I also call this generation, like the kids that are growing up now, like my kids and their kids, I call them the throwaway generation. And
The
what I mean by
throwaway
that, it's like
generation.
they are, because I'll tell you, you're going to hear this more and more. We've talked about this before. I was estranged from my mom, but it's because she didn't raise me and she
Right.
didn't try to be in my life. She wasn't good by me. So I feel like I have legitimate reason. But these kids nowadays, you got parents that raise them, blood, sweat, and tears, have stuck by them, and you piss me off once or twice, I'm done with you. I'm gonna throw you away. I don't need
Exactly.
this in my life. And it's because they're so entitled. I think a lot of them nowadays are very entitled, and so they've got that entitlement that if you piss me off, if you hurt my feelings, if you don't do what I want you to do, if you don't act like I want you to act, I just don't have any use for you,
You
and
know,
they're just willing to throw it
yeah,
away.
that's true. Like, and I hear a lot of people talk about that too. Kids these days feel like they're so entitled. I mean, of course, I
Hmm.
don't go through that with my daughter, but I have seen, friends and people who have dealt with that with their kids. And I mean, you back in the day, if you were like that and you treated our parents that way, your ass would not be able to sit down for a week, or you're gonna be
Amen.
missing some teeth. You don't treat like a lot of. I feel like a lot of kids these days are just so disrespectful and don't have manners like we did, and I don't understand that because we've always instilled that in Joanna. You see when
Hmm.
she meets you, Miss Bridget, Mr. Ronnie, and even though you told her you can call me Bridget, but
Yeah.
she's just, for her to be 15, she's very well
Hmm.
mannered and respectful, especially of her elders. But she's even like that with
Hmm.
just other kids her age around her.
Mhm. Well, I'm gonna tell you something. Yes, I've met your daughter, and I will tell you, I'm very impressed by her. I'm impressed by her
Right.
manners. I'm impressed by her being so appreciative. Like, you very rarely run into kids these days that if you do just the smallest thing for them, they are head over heels. Oh my God, thank you so much. But that's JoJo. JoJo is, if you lift a finger for her, she's forever grateful. If you do the least little thing, I mean, you're kind to her. She loves the kindness, and she's so attentive and inquisitive, and that young lady's going places. I promise you, she is going
Cece
places
said
because
that
she.
too about her. She said, "I
Hmm.
love
She
how
is.
how inquisitive that JoJo is." And she, oh my gosh, she
Hmm.
absolutely loved Cece. I think if she could put her in her pocket and bring her home with her, she would have.
Oh,
Because I mean, you've raised
yeah.
a good one too. I mean, Cece is so smart and get like, you can text her, or I can text her about a problem with Gracie or Ruru, and she's gonna respond just like that, and she's gonna tell you, hey, this is
Hmm.
serious. You need to get it checked. Like I love her so
Yeah.
much, and I was so glad I finally got to meet her. Even though we talked on the phone,
Oh,
it just meeting her. She was exactly how she was over the phone. Like I love that youngin
right.
so much. I do.
Yeah. She's good, but I have. I'm proud of all my kids. I've raised wonderful
You should
kids,
be.
and I know, yeah, and I know somebody may say, well, because everybody knows I'm estranged with one of my children, my son, and everybody's like, well, so you're still proud of him? Absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
I'm still very proud of him because he is a successful person, and the thing is, how do I say this? He believes in his whole heart that he's doing the right thing, and he believes, and the way I see it, if he believes that, then I support him. And even though I don't like it and I don't agree with it, and I think there is going to come a day that, not necessarily just because I die, I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's going to come a day that he majorly regrets it. But it probably won't be until he's up in his 50s and 60s, and it's way too late. But for now, he thinks he's doing the right thing. He believes in his whole heart and soul with all his chest that I'm right. And I feel like this. If he feels my life is better off without my mother, if my life is, then I support that, because
Right.
who am I to tell him how to live his life as an adult or demand that I be a part of his life? Because that wouldn't be fair of me. So even though the situation is like it is, I'm still very proud of him.
But do
Um,
you
I'm
see?
proud of. Go
Oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry. But do you see, like, by you saying that, how such a good mother that you are? How, you know what I mean? Like, you took a situation, but made light of it because you're going to stand behind him and support him. And
Oh yeah.
there's a lot of mothers who won't do that with their kids. They'll talk smack about
Right.
them, or completely cut them off. But here you
Mhm.
are going through what you are, and the love is unconditional. You stand right behind him, so that shows people what an amazing mom you truly are.
Well, and my thing is this. And I never want, I've told you many a times there, but you're like, why don't you talk about that? Because somebody, you could help somebody that's going through
Right.
this. And I've never really and my number one reason is because I know how, when you have social media followers, they tend to want to take up for you, and I don't want my son
Yeah.
attacked. I don't want any foul words said about him or to him,
And that's
because that is my
understandable.
son.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so I've been very cautious, and I will never reveal much information about him or point any fingers in which direction which son it is, or nothing, because I'm gonna tell you, it's just like right now. Even though if somebody come after him, I would come literally unglued, because that's my son.
That's your
But at the
baby.
same time, yes. At the same time, the main reason that I believe, in my opinion, that we don't talk is because his significant other doesn't care for me. It causes a lot of friction, and he's felt like he's needed to choose. For me as a mother, I don't want to put my child in a situation where they have to choose between me and the person they love.
Yeah.
I'm more of the type that, if I'm causing that kind of interference and confliction, I'm going to step back and let you live your life, because they are your future and I am your past. Now, don't get me wrong. I still want to be a part of your life, but I'm not where you're headed. They're where you're headed. They're where you're
Right.
going. And so to me, I'm not going to come in between that. But now, again, in some ways, somebody could look at that and fault me and say, why ain't you fighting? Why ain't you trying harder? Why ain't you down there beating down the door? Well, to me, I feel like if somebody wants to be a part of your life, they're going to get in touch with you and say, let's work this out. Let's work
Yes.
this together to
Yes.
get this figured out. Yeah, and so I
Exactly.
can't do
You
it
couldn't
by
have said that
myself.
any better. That you're exactly right.
Mm-mm. And
You're
my door's
exactly right on
open.
that.
My door's open, and I think in his heart he knows at any point in time, if he would knock on my door at 3 o'clock in the morning, he would be met with tears, a hug, and an embrace. If I
Complete
knocked on
open
his
arms.
door at three, exactly, and if I knocked on his door at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd wind up in jail. That's where I'd wind up. So that's the difference. So there again, I want to say this is what I call the throwaway generation, and I think the bonds between parents and kids are not as strong. But even in healthy families where you're not having the dynamic of one or the other being estranged, I think sometimes parents and kids nowadays aren't as close, because kids nowadays will move away faster. Like back when we all
Yes.
grew up, you would hear Jean's son Tommy down the street. Well, Tommy moved out of town. Everybody be like, "Oh my God, Tommy moved! Oh man, yeah, he got a good job." Well, that was unheard of because family lived close to each other. It'd be left like we live on this
Hmm.
block, and our cousin and neighbor lives on like your family. Y'all are all living on that same street.
Yeah.
That's what you heard back in the day. Well, now it's nothing to move away. I don't even care if I live. Yeah, I would move to another state. I move. We live in North Carolina. Kids are moving to California. They just don't care anymore. They're okay being that far away from their parents.
Yeah. And I couldn't be like that because with my first husband, he lived in Duluth, Minnesota, and he came here first and stayed for a couple of weeks, and I moved up there with him, and I got so homesick. I was there for 3.5 months, and I wanted to come home. He knew I wanted to come home, and
Mm-hmm.
we did move back. We both moved back because he knew how homesick I was, and I couldn't. Me and Jason talk once in a while, and we're like, both my mom and dad are gone, but I have my sister who is 10 minutes from me. I have my best friend Tammy, my cousin I told you about, it's like my sister. She's two doors down. Then I got Heather.
Mm-hmm.
She's a little bit away, but she lives in the country. And I've got
Mm-hmm.
just them here. Now my brother, he lives a couple of hours away and stuff, but I
Right.
don't think that I could pull myself from this town because I was
Yeah.
born and raised here. And he'll be like, "You ever want to
Right.
just move far away and just
Yeah.
just go somewhere different?" I want to. A part of me wants to because growing up, I did have big dreams. I wanted to go to New York and have a
Mm-hmm.
office, and on the 50th floor, and be a big, just big office person, executive
Oh.
CEO or whatever. And it never happened because I couldn't tear
Right.
myself away to leave my family because it especially once my dad died, my mom became like my ultimate best friend. We did everything together, and it hurt
Mm-hmm.
her when I left because she didn't think I was going to go. And at that time,
Oh. Got it.
yeah, and at that time, my sister had my niece Courtney, and so I would stay home and babysit Courtney while Mary worked so she could contribute. My sister could contribute to the house and stuff, and it hurt to leave all of them. And even my
Yeah.
sister was upset. Courtney was only like 2 years old. She was upset, and I was like, "I'm leaving my family. We done lost my dad." And so, I mean, it's true. It's like I don't know if it's got to do with social media now, if it's got to do with your phone. Like everybody is so controlled by their phone now. I feel like when we were younger, you you wouldn't come home till the street lights come home. My mama would be like, "Go outside and play. Go outside. Don't bother me. Go outside and play." And now,
Right.
it's kids and it's this. That's
Yeah.
their way of communicating. They barely even talk on the phone. They
Yeah.
don't even really visit each other. And I'm like, why aren't y'all at each other's houses? Well, that's just not what we do. We
Yeah.
just text.
Yeah.
But why? Go have fun.
Yeah. Well, like you said, just being like going outside, playing, interacting, and all of those things. That's a lot of that's changed. But like my dad, he used to say to me too. We used talking about moving away and it being hard. My dad used to say that. He said, he would thank me as an adult. And he'd say, I just want to thank you. And I say, why? And he'd say, well, for one, you didn't grow up and move away on me. He said, some kids grow up. And he said, because it had just started
Oh,
in when I was in the late 80s.
yeah.
You were starting to see that more. And he'd say, a lot of kids grow up and move away from their parents. And he said, and he said, there's even some, which he said, there's some that just don't talk to their parents, from time to time, because you'd see that a little bit. And he said, and I'm glad that's not you. He said, because he said, we've got a bond. We can work through anything. And I said, yes, we can. And like I said, listen, this is what I'm trying to tell you. My dad was, for the first 10 years of my life, I know I told you this, but other people don't know it. He was an alcoholic
Right.
and a drug addict for 10 years. And I saw that, and I used to call into all the prayer lines and have prayers for him so he would stop drinking. And so one day on one of the prayer lines, somebody said, why don't you just ask him to stop?" And I said, "Okay, I'll do that." And I went to my daddy and I asked him, I said, "Daddy, will you please quit drinking and doing drugs?" And he looked straight at me and he said, "Yes, I will." He stopped cold turkey. Now, I watched him go through withdrawals. I watched him go through hell. He really did.
Now, how
But he
long was
did
he like
stop.
that for before he had stopped? Like, how long did you watch him go through that?
The withdrawals or alcohol and drugs?
Alcohol and drugs. Was it like from when you were
My whole
little or
my whole life.
oh, the whole time?
Yeah, all 10 years. He
Oh,
had
okay.
come out of he was in yeah, he was in the army, and he had come out of the army, and he was, I think, PTSD and everything. He just started abusing
It
drugs
got to
then.
him.
And yeah, and it was to the point when I was a little girl, I remember going around and I would find pills because he took pills and stuff. And I would pick them up and I'd say, "Daddy, here, I found this pills." And he, "Oh my God, thank you so much. Don't you ever put that in
Oh,
your mouth. Don't you
Bridget.
take those." Yeah, he said, "If
Oh,
you find pills like that, you always tell Daddy, you know." And I would
yes.
give him the pill. But I remember, he was so proud of me for finding them. I remember I started looking for them because I wanted to make Daddy
Oh,
happy that I was finding them.
yeah.
Hmm.
Oh
But
God,
now
I
he
know
did
you love your
stop. But
daddy
then,
so much.
oh yeah. Well, that's what I'm. This is. I think this is my point to you. It's like, so I watched him go through that, and then you got to remember, after 10, he was a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. But my dad was not perfect. He was a very flawed parent. But in my eyes, he was perfect. And I forgave him over and over and over again
Right.
because I realized that he was battling his own demons and that those demons come from when he grew up. So I didn't
Hmm.
sit here and label him, I'm living in generational curses and I'm
Yeah.
living in, and all this stuff, because my point was, that's just beating somebody who's already down. That's my dad. He gave me life and he
Yeah.
stuck with me and tried to raise me when my mom left. So to me, that's what I wanted to do, was forgive him over and over and over again. I mean, um, I'm getting into some deep shit here, but I'm just going to go ahead and go with it.
But that's
Because my
okay.
dad
That's
was an
okay.
alcoholic,
That's
it
okay.
might help somebody. It might help
Exactly.
somebody.
Exactly.
And this is what you were talking about here not long ago. You said if you would write a book about your
Yeah.
life. But I go into, because he was an alcoholic and drug addict, because he wasn't mindful, because I was thrown from here to there when he was going through things, I was molested by multiple men. You know what I'm saying? By my
Yeah.
uncle, by my great uncle, by my neighbor in front of my grandmother, by my neighbor behind my grandmother, by my neighbor in my thing. Multiple times as a child, I lived through that. But I didn't blame my dad. I didn't say, "This is because of you, this happened."
Ah.
No, this was because of evil men. These was because of evil men that I went through this. Don't cry, girl. We're going to get through this. But what I'm trying to say is, my dad was my hero and he raised me with so much wisdom and love. And I knew that he loved me. And we got through, and he would tell me all the time, he'd say, "I've let you down. I've let you down." And I'd say, "No, you haven't. You have not
Right.
let me down. I love you." And he loved my kids. He supported my kids. But I went through hell growing up, girl. You just don't even know. But people see me now and they're like, "You're so bright and you're so airy," because I feel like life is 10% what happens to you and 90% of how you handle it.
Yeah. It
Period.
is. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I ain't gonna go into the rest because I ain't gonna have you bopping on it,
I
because
know.
it gets
Like
worse from there.
it hurts my heart because what a lot of our followers don't have the luxury of is knowing you the way that I do. And
Oh.
when you hear stuff like that about your best friend and are just such a good person and amazing like you are, like it hurts me to know that you went through something like that, because I just how you are, like, and you're this fragile little girl and just all these bad things happening to you, and it's I don't understand it. It's a horrible thing, and it hurts my heart because you shouldn't have had to go through that as a child, not at such an
Right.
innocent age, not at any age, but being
Right.
so little and so innocent, and seeing how you have not used that as a crutch. You didn't
Right.
turn to drugs or alcohol. You didn't go into a depression. You grew up to be an amazing person and had three beautiful kids, and like you made something of your life, and you was like, you know what, fuck you, you ain't getting me
Yeah.
down. Like, I
No.
had never told me about this, and I don't know if I'm saying the right word, so if anybody takes offense to this, I'm sorry, but you didn't look damaged, if that what it
Right.
is okay to say. Like, you didn't
Yeah.
show that part of you. You would have never known that you went through such horrific things to for how you
Right.
turned out. And you were
Right.
perfect example of, I can go through the most horrific thing and come out on top. You don't have to use it
Yeah.
as a crutch. You can get through it because you're living proof of it.
Yeah.
So sorry, I'm
Well, and
stepping
like
off
I
my
said,
pedestal now on that one.
that's okay, and I appreciate everything you're saying. And what helps my heart is knowing that somebody can recognize that and see that. You know what I'm saying? That takes a special person to do that because, like you said, I'm going to go a little further, and I don't mean to make you cry, but because I feel like in my heart, there's going to be a woman out there, or even a man. This happens to boys too, that they are struggling with this. But guys, after being molested so much, I mean, I probably started being molested at probably 5, and it went on till I was like 12 or 13. And then I finally come out and told my dad, and my dad was broke. It was the first time I ever seen him cry. And he bawled, and he was like, "Oh my God, I've let this happen." And all I could do was reassure him that, "Daddy, it's not your fault. It's okay. It's okay. And
Right.
I'm okay." And he was real hurt over it. But I remember him, we went, and it was like coming up to, he said, "Listen, if we go and tell people this, if we go and report that this has happened, and we tell how many times, I'm going to lose you." So then it become, you had to keep it quiet. You couldn't say nothing about it. You just had to deal with it. And then when it come to trying to press charges against my uncle, because he was the one that was the most, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, when it come to my, I told my dad, I said, he's like, "Do you want to go on stand and testify against him?" And I said, "No, I don't." I said, "I don't. I just want him to stay away from me and never want to see him again." Well, we become estranged from our whole family besides my grandmother, because they all still wanted to support my uncle. And they're like, "Yeah, he's just sick. You have to forgive him."
Oh,
And
that's
so me and my
bullshit. That's
dad,
bullshit.
it is. It is. So me and my dad just separated ourselves from the whole family. So when I raised up, it was just me and my dad. I had no family. So
Yeah.
family to me was something I craved when I got older. It was something I
Right.
wanted, because when I'd go to my friends' houses and I would see them have big Christmas dinners and, family get-togethers and all
Oh,
that, it was just like I was a child just looking through a window at them enjoying those things and
and that's
thinking,
what
"I
you
want that.
wanted.
I want family."
Hmm.
Yeah. So we move on in life, and it ends up being, I get with my, I start hanging out with friends, and the very first time I had actual intercourse, because all these other times I was molested, and for women that I want to define that, it's men exposing themselves or doing inappropriate things, but not full blown rape or sex. Okay,
Right.
so my first actual sexual intercourse encounter, I was raped by a peer, a guy of my age. So I'm sitting there thinking, this is what all men are about. You know what I'm saying? Oh my God, So that was rough to get through. And then when I got with my first husband, for the 10 years we were together, I was his punching bag. I was physically
Yeah.
abused by him the whole entire time, and it would be weekly. And I would walk around with bruises and knots on my head, and I would walk around like that, but I would cover them up, and I would still walk outside my door and smile at somebody or be happy, because I knew that I didn't want to let that define me. So coming through that and having my two boys, because I had two boys with him, coming through that and having the boys, they were my absolute world. Like I built my world around them, and it was my opportunity to have a family.
Right.
And then my first husband, he cheated, but I did pray for it. I used to lay in bed and pray every night that he would find somebody and leave me, because I knew I couldn't leave him because he would hunt me down. And so he
Oh
did.
yeah.
God answered that prayer. He found somebody and he cheated on and left me. And so then I got with my current husband, and from then on, like life changed for me and it become a blessing. And if I ask God, why did I have to go through all that? I don't know. I have no idea. But it is who what made I wouldn't change it. It's what made me who I am today.
Yeah.
And because of it, I had a stronger bond with my dad, and I love my dad. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is, I guess the point is, I can go through all that and make it, you can too. But the other point is, if I can go through all that and still love and forgive my dad, and we still have a bond, and I still see him as my hero, don't be so fucking hard on your parents. Don't be
Yeah.
so damn hard on them, because they've been, you don't know what they've been through. You don't know the life they've lived and the challenges they've faced that's made them hard. Because I think
Exactly.
where you say I'm sweet and stuff, I think a lot of people find me as inapproachable or too strong, because I tell things like it is, but it's because of what I've been through. You know what I'm
But that's
saying?
what makes you so unique. Like, I would rather have a friend to tell it like it is than to sit here and lie to me and sugarcoat shit, Because me
Right.
and you are very, very honest with each other. We critique each other with our coloring. Neither one of us cry about it. Neither one of us get mad and act weird towards each other. The broccoli tree is perfect example, and the speckled
I
dragon.
knew you was gonna say that.
Yeah, so it's like, if you've got that good of a relationship, be honest with each other, because you can do it in a nice way, but don't sit there and,
Yeah.
and not like somebody but because of it. I mean, that'd be like, you on camera right now, and they'd be like, Bridget, you got a little, something right there in your nose. I'm gonna let you go to a whole damn
Yeah.
podcast with something in your nose. I don't care to hear me
They're like,
telling you get it out. No, you good. What about me? No, we're good. Okay, check.
you good, you
But
good.
you're absolutely right, because, and I know when I say this, people's going to say, oh, there's plenty of books. There is not a book on how to be the perfect parent. Fuck Dr. Spock.
Yeah.
He's a man, first of all, and you, you learn as you go. And our parents went through shit the way we did. My mom was molested growing up by her uncle when she was little, and it went on for quite a while.
Yeah.
So she didn't let that define her. She ended up
No.
getting married, having, my sister, my brother, and me, having a
Right.
career, getting this house that I'm living in now, and I don't mean anything by it when I say that people will use their problems as a crutch, but you're stronger than that. Life is so short. Don't let that take you down and take you out. And that's what your
Hmm.
story is showing people right now. Look at how
Right.
successful you are. Look how happy you are. You got a beautiful family. You're not wallowing
Thank you.
around and being depressed or anything. You made something of yourself. And look, yeah, do you have your moments? Everybody does. But then when you do, you get
Oh
right
yeah.
back up and get it out of your head and just continue with life. Because life is too short and too
Well, and
precious.
that's exactly, and that's what I've always told Brittany. That's what I've always told all my kids. It's okay that something gets you down. Get on the
Hmm.
floor and cry about it. Spend a little time wallowing in pity. Don't stay
Yeah.
there. Don't stay
Don't
there.
stay
Get up.
there. Exactly.
Keep going. Because if you stay there, then you've been defeated, and that don't work. That don't work for me. You got to keep going. So, but you mentioned that about your mom, and you've oftentimes compared me to her, but now you see that's probably what made her strong and made her realize I've got to be strong, because you're what you're just saying is, when things like this in life hit you, you got two ways of dealing with it. You can buckle and fold and let it defeat you, or you can get stronger and rise above it and keep trucking past it. But I'm a firm believer, if something like that happens to you and you let it destroy you months and years and all these years later, then it's still controlling you. And I refuse to let that
Yes.
shit control me. I will
And
not let it control me.
she always said that what you just said about not letting it get to you. That was one of her
Yeah.
biggest things that she would tell you, because she was a mama's girl, and she
Hmm.
lost her mom when she was her mom didn't even get to see her graduate high school. And
Yeah.
grandma Sadie passed away from uranic, if I'm saying that right, kidney poisoning, and she was diabetic.
Wow.
And it hurt my mom like bad, so she
Yeah.
lost her mom. She went through that, and then she did lose grandpa later on in life once she was married and stuff, but she had lost both her parents. And I even asked
Yeah.
her, I was like, Mama, I was like, does that make you feel, because right now I feel like I'm nobody's child, because both my mom and dad
Yeah.
is gone. And I try to
Yeah.
remember what she said, because I was like, Mom, Mama, doesn't that make you feel like you're nobody's kids, like you never had parents? She said, no. She said, I had
No.
two parents that I absolutely loved. She said, but I
Yeah.
can't let that get me down, because what kind of parent would I be to my kids, to y'all?
Yeah.
She said, you you
Yeah.
you got to get back up and pick the pieces and move on with your life.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well,
Yeah.
and that's what I say too. When I lost my dad, and then my mom left when I was 2 months old, and never, I never seen her again. I met her when I was 8. My dad was a cab driver, and he actually got the call to pick up a cab fare, and went and picked her up, and it was her. And he asked her, he said, "Would you like to meet Bridget?" And she said, "Yeah, I'd like to meet her," because she hadn't seen me since I was 2 months old. And I remember
Wow.
him bringing her. Yep, I remember him bringing her to my grandmother's. And the how do I say this? It was like she was something I had been craving all my life. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Like, I was so happy to see her face. But I saw her that day, and I never saw her again until I was 13 or 14. Um, and I had ran away from home. I'd ran away from home. I had did a lot of bad things, like laying out of school, and I'd started kind of down a wrong path, and so my dad grounded me. And then when he grounded me, I was like, "Yeah, I'm not here for this." So I called.
oh,
I got my. It's sad, and I got my grandmother to get in touch with my mom's mom, and she got in touch with her, and I told her I wanted to come live with her, and she'd got saved and was going to church and everything, so she come picked me up and said, "Yeah," and I stayed with her for about a week after I ran away from home. And my dad didn't know where I was, and he was sick as a dog. And I remember talking to my grandma, and she said, "You've got to tell him." She said, "He is worried sick. He don't know where you're at." She said, "I told him I knew, but that I wasn't going to tell, and that you were safe." And he's very upset. And so I remember calling my dad, and the instead of him fussing and saying, "Why did you do this?" and blah blah blah, and he was like, "Thank God you're okay." And I said,
oh,
"Daddy, I'm fine." And I said, "I'm sorry." And he talked to me on the phone for a while, and he said, "Bridget, I just want you to know, life has consequences, and when you do bad things, you face bad consequences." He said, "But I want you to know, if you come home," he said, because I asked him, "Could I come home?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "You're still grounded." And I accepted that, and I went home.
yeah.
But as soon as I got in the car, y'all, when I met my mom that week, you would think, because I had not seen her all my life, that she'd be taking me shopping or spend time with me. No, she had me outside raking her yard. I lie you not.
Mother of the Year award? Not.
Raking her yard to the point I had blisters all over both hands.
Oh
And
my God.
mhm. And she'd put me to bed at 7 o'clock at night. And I never had that with my dad. So I was ready to get out of there. I realized then how good I had it. And so I
Yeah.
remember him picking me up, and I had my hands all wrapped. I had them all wrapped in gauze where I had blisters all over them.
Oh,
And I said, "Can you take me to Hardee's and get a burger?" I said, "I'm dying for a cheeseburger. I've eaten hot dogs all week." And he said, "Absolutely." And he said, "But now you know you're still grounded, right?" And I said, "I know." But I was ready. I was ready for that punishment then. I was like, "I'll take
yeah.
it. I'll take it."
You was like, let me get out of
Yeah.
hell and come back to heaven.
Yeah, and then I never seen her again till I probably got 17 or 18, and I started chasing her down, and every 6 months to a year I'd chase her down and visit with her. And you know what she'd say to me on the visit? Well, you
Mm.
can't stay long because my boyfriend's coming home after work, and I want to see him and spend time with him a little bit. And I was like, okay. And I
Oh,
did that for a
mm.
while, and finally it started coming to me like, I don't know if this is worth it. But my final straw with her was when my dad passed away. I called her up, and I told her, I said, hey, I said, I just want you to hear it from me and not see it in the newspaper. I just want to let you know Dad died. And she said, really? Oh, well, honey, you'll get over that.
That's so horrible to say to your child. That is the worst thing that you could say. You just lost a one person that stayed and raised you and truly
Yeah.
110% loved you and did everything for you. And then she's going to say that. Mm-mm. Nope.
Yeah. Well, that bothered me. And then I had a housewarming shower and she came to it. First thing she did was brought me to my bedroom and she said, we need to talk. And she said, listen, I've lost my mom, and I wanted to say so bad, well, you get over it. I was like, really? I know. And she goes,
Mm.
but I just want us to fix our relationship because you only got one mother. She said, now, like, you got three kids. And if something happens to one of your kids, you can have another kid, but you're only going to have one mom. It clicked on me right then. That's the reason she let me go the way she did, because she thinks kids are disposable.
Yeah,
So that ended it for
exactly.
me. She spent a lot of time. She told me on that conversation that my dad never really loved me. The only reason he kept me was because that was the only way he thought he'd get her back, and that she
Mm,
wasn't coming back without me. And it just, after I listened to that for about 2 weeks, every time I talked to her and she's beating him up and stuff, I even told her on the phone one time, I said, Mom, listen, my dad's not here anymore, and that's my hero, and you're bashing my hero. And this stuff you're bringing up about him, I can't even ask. So how about let's don't do that? And she kept doing it, and I told myself, I said, I'm done. I am done.
oh
I
yeah.
stopped talking to her after that.
So
Yeah,
that's she's building a toxic relationship with you is what she's trying to do.
yeah. And turn me against my hero. He
Yeah,
wasn't even here
why
anymore.
would you
She's
want to
telling me
do that? Jealousy.
she was
She
telling
I
me
think
horrible things.
she
Yeah, it
probably
was.
is dealing with regrets, and it probably did bother her that you were a daddy's girl and everything like that, and she was like, okay, well, I'm hurt, so let me hurt her. And that's wrong because you don't do
Yeah,
that as a parent. You don't do that to your child. You
yeah,
don't leave your child at 2 months
yeah.
old and
Right.
bash your passed away dad. But yeah,
Yeah.
no. Mm-mm. No. Karma
Girl,
will come around.
right. And see, my dad never spoke ill of her. The whole time he was raising me, he never bashed her. He told me, you might come to a day that you want to meet your mother, and if you do, that's fine. Never bashed her at all. He didn't even tell me. It was one day I was digging, you was talking about going through your dad's stuff, and you found all this
Yeah,
paperwork where, kids are nosy. We're nosy like
we
that.
are.
But I was going through some of his paperwork when he was at work one time, and y'all, Holly knows this, but y'all don't. And I'm only reason I'm sharing all this with you, and I know this is turned in from family dynamics and family ties to family issues and problems, but I just want to discuss it all, what people go through. But I
Yeah.
even told Holly that I was 8 years old, and my dad used to take me to a babysitter, and it was hard for him to afford it, and I didn't like it, so I just told him quit taking me to babysitter. From 8 on, I stayed home when he worked during the summers and after school. But it was one of those days I was home, and I was going through his paperwork, and I found the court papers where he went to court to get custody of me. And you know what it said on her? It said she didn't show up. She didn't even show up to court to fight for me. So
She
they
didn't even
automatically
care.
granted him custody. Mm-mm. But my dad never even told me that. He never did say, your mom didn't even care enough. She didn't even show up to the courthouse. He never told me any of that. It didn't matter to him. That what mattered to him was that I was with him, and that's all that mattered.
I feel like that happened because you probably would have had a way worse life with her. I mean, you hadn't seen her since you were 2 months old, and she's got you out there raking till you got blisters. There's no telling what she would have had you doing. No telling
Yeah.
what she would have had you
I felt
doing.
like Cinderella. I felt like Cinderella
Yes,
that
or
week.
Little Orphan Annie.
Yeah,
Right.
Little Orphan Annie. I've never seen that movie.
Y'all, that I gotta after our podcast, I'm gonna add that to our list that we will be talking about movies that Bestie has not seen. Y'all, she's not seen Dirty Dancing. That's going to be a whole topic on itself.
I've seen two. I've seen the new one that came out with Miles Teller.
Oh, it's horrible. Because just like how they say nobody puts baby in a corner, nobody can recreate Dirty Dancing. There's only one. Havana Nights, horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. There's only one OG, and it's the OG Dirty Dancing.
Oh no, I like Dirty Dancing with Miles Teller in it.
Ah, but you
I
watch
think
the first one to compare them.
I think now that I've seen that one, if I watch the first one, I ain't gonna like the first one. I've never sat down and watched the whole Wizard of Oz. I've seen little bits and pieces. What else have we talked about? And we could do a podcast because I'm gonna ask you movies you hadn't seen, ma'am. She hadn't seen The Green
Yes.
Mile, y'all.
Yeah, I've not
She
seen the
hadn't.
Green Mile. But I know
Uh-uh.
about it. I do know about it. And I know Tom Hanks is in it. And I
And
know it's a war movie.
yeah, and she hadn't seen. What was the other one you hadn't seen? Damn it!
Indecent
Oh,
Proposal.
Sling Indecent Proposal and Sling Blade.
Oh,
Ain't seen
but I know the lines from it.
because you've seen people do it.
Oh, God.
Well, y'all, listen, we've enjoyed it. It, like I said, it turned into a whole hodgepodge of all kinds of stuff. But the bottom lines is families is not now what they used to be because we used to stick together no matter what, you know.
Yes.
And I think that no, but now like you and JoJo and Jason, I see y'all as the old timey family, the family that's going to stick together forever. And I see JoJo
Yeah.
being one that if she did go to school, I don't think she's going to move too far from y'all. I think she needs y'all too
I don't
much.
think she is either because she was talking about that she thinks she's going to go to Duke. I can deal with that. That's only like 2 hours and 15 minutes away. 2 hours and 15 minutes
Yeah.
away. But yeah, be kind to one another. Love one another.
Yes.
Embrace your family. We are not promised tomorrow. If you're on the
No.
outs with a family member, try like hell to make amends. Just, just do it. Just do it. Just do it.
Let bygones be bygones.
Yes, and we hope y'all have enjoyed our podcast. If you have not yet subscribed to us, make sure you subscribe and make sure you hit that little notification bell so it will alert you when we post.
Yeah. And also, y'all, if you're after the podcast, chime in. Let us know how you enjoy these podcasts. Let us know how you enjoy the topics. Let us know if we touch on something that you want us to go deeper
Yeah,
into because we're open to any ideas. But we hope you've enjoyed the podcast. We love you guys. And what is our next topic, Holly? Do you know?
our next topic. Ooh, no, I
Because
don't.
I didn't bring my paper with me.
We did. Oh, I did not either. Well, let's see. What can our next topic be?
Okay, let's do separate checking accounts. Yes or no?
Yes, separate checking accounts. Are you for it or not?
Yep. Anyhow, love you guys.
Love
Bye.
y'all. Good night.